So I think my microphone is already on, transmission. I wait just one more minute for the last people to get in and find their seat. Welcome already from my side. So it's great seeing all of you there. I realized that here at the Technical University we have no electronic means to tell the people outside that we're starting here inside. So I'm bridging that a little bit by starting to talk. At least the people who stand in front of the doors know that there's something going on here. So yeah, let's start really. My name is Werner Lang and I have the pleasure now for a little bit more than 1 year to be the Vice President for Sustainable Transformation. I can tell you so far it has been really exciting. It has been fantastic also to get all the support by our President and the President's office and the other Vice Presidents. It's really fun doing it, and so I'm really happy to stand here in front of you today, opening basically our Sustainability Day. So yes, I said it already, dear President, dear Thomas Hoffmann, also dear Sarah, Professor Dr. Sarah Billington from the University of Stanford, the Dorr School of Sustainability. You're really welcome here, dear colleagues, all of you here in this room and maybe also in front of your computers following this event here, dear students who have been really decisive for making this event happening, dear partners of our university. Without you, would not have been possible to do it today, and also our friends, all of our friends of our university. Everybody, welcome to our second Sustainability Day, which has grown, I would say, looking at all of you tremendously, also looking at what we have outside tremendously since the first Sustainability Day, which was held on October 27th, 2022. On that day, on the October 2022, a little over 19 months ago, we published the TUM Sustainability Future Strategy 2030. Those of you who have been there remember that. We have the strategy which defines basically our long-term vision of sustainability in 6 fields of action: research, of course, teaching and continuing education, entrepreneurship and innovation, campus, operations and resource management, governance and university community, as well as communication and global engagement. And I think, Thomas, you will be also covering what we're doing in these fields. So with our TUM Sustainable Future Strategy 2030, we have committed ourselves to really become a driving force for tackling the most pressing global challenges in the field of sustainability, and thus contributing to the creation of a sustainability movement and a sustainable society. To achieve this, we want to integrate sustainability more deeply into the work and the structure of our university, and we want to engage all students and the whole staff. So I'm really happy that I've seen already some colleagues from our staff also, which is important to make things happen. With this in mind, with this urge, with this goal in mind, I'm really delighted that we are all able today to present our first sustainability report, which highlights TUM's ongoing commitment to sustainability and the remarkable progress we are making in this important area. The report demonstrates that sustainability at TUM is not just an abstract concept of some sort, but a guiding principle that permeates our collective sustainability of efforts to help to address sustainability challenges, both locally here at TUM and also globally. I'm equally delighted to be able to welcome all of you to our Sustainability Day today, which is actually a festival, as you have noticed, giving us the chance to experience, discuss, enjoy, and celebrate all the achievements we have made during the past 19 months since the TUM Sustainable Future Strategy has been launched. By actually listening to the advice of our students in preparation of this event, to the advice and also the engagement of our students, I should say, we have turned this into this festival we are having to really get all the community of our university in. With more than 100 initiatives of our marketplace and opportunities, we will showcase and show everyone how the students, our employees, our partners, our scientists, who are all getting involved with this kind of move, and more than 50 different workshops showing really in lectures and discussion rounds what kind of diversity we have in the field of sustainability topics and bringing them to life. With this event, we want to inform you, we want to strengthen and extend our network, we want to, above all, inspire people and inspire them to take action. That's the main thing. The event would not have been possible, however, without the extensive support of numerous stakeholders at TUM and also our partners outside. I would therefore like to thank everyone at TUM and all the people who helped us in the Sustainability Office, the Sustainability Board, our task force, really supporting this event to make it happen. This Sustainability Festival and our report is a testament to our hard work, to your hard work, all of you, and serve as a roadmap for our continued commitment to sustainable development. So let us continue to innovate, to educate, and to inspire for a future where sustainability is not just a goal, but a shared reality for a sustainable future for us humans on our planet. So thank you very much for all of you joining us today. I cannot name all of you right now in detail. We also have a board down there thanking our sponsors. Without you, it would not have been possible to turn this event into reality. Joining us actually in this transformative journey for actively supporting us. Thank you so much. So I have now the pleasure really to welcome the president, our president of TUM, who has been really decisive in the whole development. We started the whole thing, no, it's true, many years ago with our board, where we were kind of informal task force starting. You turned this task force in really a group of people. We will hear about my colleagues later on, the board, the sustainability board, also the task force for sustainable campus development. This would not be possible without your commitment to taking all of us really seriously, not only in what we are doing, but also our recommendations for the university. It's really wonderful working with you, Thomas. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Yeah, dear Werner, first of all, I really would like to thank you personally and the many people standing behind you to make this day possible. For me, it's a bit like an experiment, yeah, because when you start an experiment, you never know what the outcome is. And I was afraid that probably we are the only two sitting here today, but this is not the case. If you look outside and just walk through this, as you say, we walk the talk. If you walk through the building, you can see what TUM and all of our colleagues in the schools, in the centers, has delivered so far. It's just fantastic. I would like to welcome in particular all of my colleagues, of our passionate students, of our guests from industry, from different foundations, the sponsors of the university. Without you, many things, I think, that also helped to develop the university over the last years would not be there. That's for sure. Thank you for this and for sharing also this joint ambition with us, being here now at the second TUM Sustainability Day. And I can tell you, if you just compare the first to the second, there's, I don't know, a X-fold increase in size. Let's see how the next will look like. I don't know, but I think we are ambitious and this is important. If we just think back 2-3 years, you may remember that the pandemic at that time really brought us a time of great uncertainty and of disruption in all our lives. However, the pandemic may be minor, I think, compared to what could come in the future if the climate crisis continues unbroken. Like COVID-19, if you allow me this comparison, addressing climate change requires, first of all, to change some of our behaviors, but that will be not enough. Secondly, in particular, we need to deploy the development of new technologies in order to be able to tackle the crisis. And like COVID-19, I think it's also a good comparison. Climate change is a global challenge. It transcends institutions. That's why we need to collaborate with partners. It transcends countries. It transcends continents. Just in slow motion, in treacherous slow motion, because some of us probably still have not identified that as a challenge, a crisis coming in slow motion. I think, and I'm fully convinced that sticking to this chosen path will, next to the challenges we will see through the climate crisis, in particular reinforce also the inequality of our planet, because those people who have benefited, so to say, most from, or least from the man-made achievements, they suffer most from the negative consequences, from the side effects of what we have done. Some of you may remember in 2019, when I gave my inaugural speech as president, I said that I think the world needs our university more than ever. It needs the creativity of you, of our people, of our community. It needs in particular also the courage for change, and I think this is for what TUM is known about, that we are courageous and try to move things, do things differently as other people are doing it, but and also to combine with responsible action and to put action on the ground in order to push the sustainable transformation, not only by telling people what they can do, but also by doing on our own what we can do to play a role in this transition. And I think if you look back now 4 years, I think we achieved already quite a lot. Some of our scientists made tremendous efforts in better understanding how climate change is coming. But on the other hand, our engineers and scientists developed more resource-efficient and greener technologies, processes, and products. And if I look, for example, just to our campus Straubing, also developing more effective models when it comes to bio and circular economies. And we were the first runners, if I may say that, and I would like to welcome also the director of Straubing, Professor Sieber, to have a cross-disciplinary campus in Germany focusing on biotechnology and sustainability. And I really thank you for making it possible that we exceeded the 1,000-student mark last year. This is just fantastic, and it shows also how attractive this topic is for the next generation to come. But I think this is all fine, but the scale and the time frame of the climate crisis demands much more. And that's why, Werner put it in good words already, we 2 years ago put the TUM Sustainable Futures strategy in place as a testament of our ambition, which should not only be a lip service, but really a guiding principle, guiding our activities in all different dimensions of activity. And we have 6 major fields which have been presented already. And I will show you today some highlights and where we stand in these different areas. Today, I'm in particular pleased, and I think it was expected that there's a QR code somewhere, but you will find it somewhere else, because today we are also publishing our first report, because it's not only about putting targets and putting measures on paper and KPIs, but we also, first of all, need to monitor the impact. We get some numbers out, but we also need a transparent reporting in order to convince people who join us that there's some impact behind what we are doing. And secondly, also to attract people who are not among the believers yet, and probably they will join us if they look how impactful that is what we are doing. So let me get started with research, and I think many of us will believe that in research, if we really would like to find sustainable solutions to tackle crisis, we will require the best minds of our university to work together across disciplines and across campuses. And that's why we arranged, and it was, I know, for everybody hard work over the last years to rearrange our competencies across the different disciplines into our TUM schools, a process which is still ongoing to get the fine-tuning done now to make it even more effective. And cross-cutting those schools, the integrative research centers, which, so to say, are the interface between the schools in order to address more complex transdisciplinary topics and to develop innovations which are also not only scientifically valid, but also trustworthy and scalable, combining that also with our entrepreneurship ecosystems to come up with scalable innovations at the end. And we initiated also grassroots and support grassroots initiatives quite a lot in order to better combine our expertise across the schools in with an unparalleled range of disciplines. With TUM mission networks, we have flexible structures to really grassroots support new ideas, such as this Circulatum. I would like to mention this because this is Germany's largest group of scientists, more than 100 scientists across the entire university, to work on circular economy models. And I think we all agree that this need to bring the competence of the different disciplines together. And I'm happy that also our Unternehmertum, our business incubator, and Professor Schoenberger is with us today, the head of the Unternehmertum, with the Circular Republic, has an industry network along the value chain that can intermingle with the Circulatum, so we can take it from education and research all the way up to innovation and industry. And this is why I think also, and I just heard that this morning, in this SDG, number 9, we are number 1 worldwide. We also need to work on a more sustainable research culture. So that's why we are hiring new faculty, and we want to give in particular more easy access also to information to our entire community, and also easy access to technology. Just to give you an example, 40 new professors were appointed in the last 4 years. 220 in the last 4 years, 40 only in the last 2 years, and all of those 40 have the competence to tackle some of the challenges you see here behind me, one of our SDGs. We created technology core facilities to be more resource efficient in order to give access to everyone, not only to the classical chair positions, to technology. And we are currently setting up a new research information system. Here we would like to get easy access to information for each and everyone, for the students from the first semester to the last semester, and to the entire staff of the university, to get information on competences of our scientists, of scientific outputs, of infrastructure. Where do you find what at the university? In particular, as a multi-campus university, this is not always so simple. And we also increased the accessibility to information. For example, we increased the open access rate in the last years from 39% in 2019 to 64% in 2023. And since this year, we even, and I would like to thank also our Councillor Albert Berger to support that we have a TUM-wide publish and read open access service now for each and everybody. It's so important to get access to information without hurdles. This is what I'm fully convinced in. We started also to take sustainability aspects into account when we support large-scale research collaborations. And I would like to mention, for example, the Synergy Fuels project of the TUM Campus Straubing. It's about sustainable fuels by integrating biofuel production, e-fuel production. The Hydrogen Living Laboratory in Burghausen is a large initiative, almost 40 million, led by TUM with partners of our Bavaria's chemical triangle in the southeast of Bavaria with industry partners. And they are focusing on a hydrogen-based economy, so focusing and bundling the competence of the chemistry industry, chemical industry, with that of TUM. And if I mentioned the TUM Institute for Advanced Study, I mentioned it therefore because this is a window to the world with more than 220 fellows from all over the world working here for once in a while at TUM. And this is so important because also here we focus more on sustainability, sustainability-driven areas of research. 50 of our currently 80 focus areas tackle climate crisis relevant topics. I think this is already on a good stage. But the news is now that from this year on, we will start with the Dieter Schwarz Courageous Research Grant, the possibility to support really high-risk, high-gain projects with a focus on digitalization and sustainability. So there will be an annual call where colleagues from you can collaborate with another partner outside of TUM globally to come up with a really risky, courageous project. And I think we can take things forward by doing that. However, I think in particular we have this discussion quite often in Germany and in Europe. We also need to work and to identify and overcome, in particular, the hurdles that prevent nowadays the scaled implementation of technology in society. And that's why we put our resources to work at the TUM School of Social Sciences and Technology and the Munich School of Politics and Public Policy, and the new TUM think tank, which we just created to build a bridge between politics, societally relevant topics, and research. And I can just congratulate the colleagues that I think that they do a fantastic job, and that they are also a member today of the in the exhibition here is really fantastic, because we need social sciences, political sciences, much more than in the past, in order to be sure that we can support our politics in developing an innovation open governance thinking. This is important, but also to create the suitable regulatory frame conditions to bring those technologies we are developing really into society and diffuse it into society. My second point is about education and capacity building. Also here we have a lot already put in place to bring sustainability topics from early education, basic education, to postgraduate studies, all the way up to lifelong learning. And if I just mention some numbers, 49 of our 180 programs, bachelor master programs today, they have sustainability principles fully integrated in the core of the study program, in the different programs, mandatory courses, elective offerings. But what we introduced in addition are the so-called plug-in modules, which are extracurricular programs where students can get access to new information which probably they are missing in their own study program yet, to be more agile and react more flexibly on the demands. In the last 4 years, 100 plug-in modules have been put in place, and I would like to thank Gerhard Müller, who's sitting here, the Vice President, for teaching that you and your team put that together with the schools really in place. We have 15 plug-ins specifically targeting sustainability topics, like climate finance, for example, like impact entrepreneurship for sustainable transformation. And what I'm personally very happy about it is the activity of our students, the self-activity of our students. When I look at the TUM project weeks, for example, 50 project weeks reaching out to 2,000 students who came together to work in groups on topics where they would like to deliver new prototypes or new solutions for sustainable challenges. TUM student clubs, we have 180 student clubs now. That mirrors about 8,000 of our 50,000 students to be engaged in building new things, in bringing technology forward. And I think this is just fantastic. And we see some of the activities out there. TUM Institute for Lifelong Learning, here we put a lot of emphasis, first of all, in building capacity for our own staff community. More than 2,000 employees were trained over the last 3 years on sustainability, on responsible leadership, but also digital skills, which is crucial for the success in those areas. And until last year, end of last year, more than 5,200 professionals from outside, executives and professionals who we train in sustainability competences, like, for example, sustainable management and technology, or sustainable real estate, and many, many other things. My third point is about, and this I think makes TUM specific, is our activity in entrepreneurship and innovation. And I think it's a no-brainer that if you want to push sustainability, we need to push innovation and entrepreneurship, because this is how we can really put things into the market in a highly agile way. And together with Unternehmertum, the TUM Venture Labs and the TUM Forte team, I think we really reached the critical mass to make a difference. And I'm really thankful that, and I would like to thank also the teams that I just mentioned, that the Munich setup has been ranked now as #1 when it comes to the innovation center, startup center in Europe. And this is fantastic, because this was our target 4 years ago, Helmut. We set up an own venture lab on sustainability and circular. so that we have a one-stop agency where startups or founding teams can go and get information, get support in the early discovery phase through the incorporation of the company, all the way up to financing, getting external investments. And I'm also proud, and you may have seen that, some of you were probably the first time here on the campus. If you approach the campus with SAP and Siemens, the new buildings in front of the campus, BMW and many other partners we have here on campus, we have the possibility to really speed up the implementation of technologies even on the global market, because they are globally active and globally networked, and this is what we need as a university to be more active. However, we have one challenge in these areas. In particular, if you look at the numbers, we have 78 startups from last year, new startups, 55% target sustainability topics, but only 17% female founders. Here we need to improve, and we need to find impactful ways, because if I look to the 38% of female students we have, there's a lot of potential which we do not capture yet. Campus operations and resource management. Here I'm very thankful in particular for Werner, for the task force you put up. Some numbers we were now, and this is definitely not too early, I can tell you, we were able to draw up the first energy and greenhouse gas balance for 2021 and 2022. Our overall energy consumption across all the locations accounts for a total of 280 gigawatt hours. This is about 50-50 electricity and heat. And if you translate that to a number which everybody understands, it translates into about 15,000 households. And this is roughly about twice the city of Garching. So this is really, so we are a major player here in the field. In particular, if you consider, this is what I frequently also tell our minister, that our energy consumption is about 10% of the energy consumption of all Bavarian state buildings. So we are really a big player. So what happens here will make a difference, not only for us, but also for the state of Bavaria. Almost all electricity purchased by us comes from renewable resources. However, renewable resources covered only about 9% when it comes to our heat supply. So this is where we can do a lot. Overall, this equals an overall share of about 36% of renewable resources, renewable energy as TUM as a whole. Our greenhouse gas emissions were about 60,000 tons of CO2 equivalents in 2021, similar in 2022. And if you convert that to the number of students and staff members we have, it's about 1 ton per capita per year. If you look at the average per capita consumption in Germany, it's about close to 10, and globally acceptable would be 2. So also here we see there's a lot of space ahead of us over the next years, and this in particular means that we also need to improve our buildings, because unfortunately about 50% of our buildings were built before 1984. So they are not the standards which we would like to see in the future. There will be a lot of investment needed by the state of Bavaria. As the first university, we were able in Bavaria to develop now a climate action plan with concrete measures what we would like to reach in order to improve. And we decided, after careful thinking, to come up with ambitious but achievable goals, and without buying emission certificates or other measures of greenwashing. So our aim is to reduce, first of all, Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions by 80% in the next 6 years to come until 2030. And we start already, for example, you may have seen that also last year, but by expanding our photovoltaic systems here on the informatics and maths building, for example, that brought additional 2 megawatts, and until 2026, about 7 million euros are reserved from the state of Bavaria to further expand photovoltaics, in particular here on Garching, because this is the campus where the most pressing challenges. And currently we are putting up an expert group in order to come up with a sustainable travel policy also, because this is something we need to take in account, in particular when it comes to scope-free emissions, in order to develop some standards for reduced emission business trips, also for student exchange abroad. Responsible governance, and I think will make that short because Werner mentioned it already. I just want to thank Werner because I think with you, we would not, I cannot imagine a better vice president for this function. I have really to say that because you're an expert in the field. And this is and we need experts in that field. This is fantastic, and I only can support it. And the team behind you, the Sustainability Office, with Mr. Michel and the team behind it, the TUM Sustainability Board, which is actually an expert board. I would like to thank all the faculty members and students working on that, because this board is so important to really put our strategy into action and to monitor the progress also of our plan. I don't want to forget to thank our students in particular, because they very early enough supported sustainability. For example, in Straubing, since 2018, with the first green office of our students, they do a lot to integrate sustainability in daily campus life, so that the next generation of students can also feel that there's an atmosphere where they can give a contribution to our targets. A second one then in Weinstefan 2021, and we are planning 2 additional ones in Garching, as well as in the Munich City Center. And finally, it's about communication and global engagement. I think definitely if we want to raise awareness and if we want to foster public commitment within TUM and beyond, we need to strengthen our communication internally and externally. One element will be a sustainability dashboard, which we are currently designing in order to showcase, so to say, also during the year, not only at the Sustainability Day, how we are progressing and to show figures. But if we want to create a global impact, we need global partners. And that's why we extend our ambitions beyond the campus, for example, through the Eurotech University Alliance, and I'm very happy that I've seen some of our members here from the Eurotech Alliance, and they will meet tomorrow and the day after, also to exchange on best practices in campus management. And I'm always asking myself, why should we do always the same mistake? Or mistakes. We can learn from others, they can learn from us, and I think this is the way how we can proceed here. I would like to thank you for being here. I'm really proud that we have a flagship partnership with Imperial College London. We even put up a joint doctoral academy with Imperial and TUM, and focus here our ambition on in the Zero Pollution Network, where we have joint PhD programs between both top universities. We have the Global Bioeconomy Alliance, also starting from our Straubing campus, but grasping the potential of the entire university and bringing this together with partners, in particular from Global South, but also beyond. And currently, and I would like to welcome Sarah Billington from Stanford, that you are here with us today. It's really fantastic because, and we met yesterday already, I think we share common thoughts about the future. We are currently conceptualizing a collaboration where we bring entrepreneurship and sustainability together between Stanford and TUM. And in the future, and I will make that short now because I will have to look at time. Oh, I'm over the time already. is that we will engage even more in the Global South. I think if you really would like to slow down climate change and also would like to strengthen the social cohesion in the Global South, we need to enable the next generation of people in the Global South to do everything to create economic strength and the right social framework in their home countries. If we don't achieve this, I think the world as a whole will come into massive challenges. So at the end, I would like to thank you for being here. I would like to thank you in advance if you go out to tell your friends and colleagues what fantastic activities are going on here and convince them to support the sustainable transformation of this university. We need each and every one for this. It's not a crazy idea of a president or a vice president or some boards. It's a community ambition which we want to work on here. Thank you very much. I would like to thank in particular also the sponsors, because without external sponsoring, as mentioned, we wouldn't be here today. Thank you. Have a lot of, or enjoy a lot of excitement. I'm sure that some of you will come home probably with a lot of new energy, and we need energy, new energy. Thank you so much. And now, okay.
Thank you very much, Thomas. It's always great to see your energy transmitted to the audience, and it's wonderful having you here pushing sustainability to such an extent. And there's a lot of commitment here in this space, and I think one person who is also very committed is really, Sarah, it's you. Coming all the way, long flight. It was not only the only program point you're doing here today with the keynote lecture, which we are looking forward to, but I think there's been already 3 days of you showing what we're doing, also getting you involved. There will be afterwards the board meeting where you also will be here, so we tried to make your time worthwhile for you as well, and now we're looking forward to hearing your thoughts on sustainability. We are curious. I don't know, maybe the audience, you in the room, you don't know that really Stanford University has invested a lot of efforts and also a lot of funds into creating a new school of sustainability, the Door School of Sustainability, really forming an umbrella of all the activities. And you basically, of the Dean of the Department of Civil Engineering and Environmental Engineering, you're part of that with your department, but there's also the Wood Center being part of that. So there's a lot of activities involved, and we're curious to hear about your thoughts on that. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much for that really kind introduction. You actually gave me a promotion by calling me a dean. I'm the head of the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering, and we sit between the School of Engineering and the Door School of Sustainability. It is a great honor for me to be here today at the Technical University of Munich, and I would like to help you, especially the students, kick off your celebration and this festival by sharing one of my passions in sustainability, and that is cities. The title of my address today is Pathways to Urban Sustainability. So by 2050, the world's population will grow from about 8.1 billion people today to over 9.7 billion. And over 70% of us will be living in urban environments. This represents a significant shift and change from about 60 years ago, when almost 2/3 of the population was living in rural environments. And most of this future population growth that you see projected will be in urban areas in low and middle income countries, largely in Africa and Asia. And urban growth is actually a really good thing. There are a lot of benefits to cities. Cities drive development. They are centers of innovation and productivity, generating more than 80% of GDP. And they provide economic opportunities and paths out of intergenerational poverty. And well-designed cities can actually be very good for the environment on a per capita basis, using less resources and generating less waste than small towns and rural areas. For example, by managing population growth and density, a lowering of CO2 emissions, as shown here on this graph, can be achieved. Now, most of the benefits of cities are the result of agglomeration and density. Unfortunately, our rapid growth in urban areas is creating a host of environmental, economic, and social sustainability problems, as also outlined in your Futures report, that we can and need to address. So for instance, managing density is really a challenge right now, in that land consumption is outpacing population growth. This sprawl is putting a lot of pressure on our natural resources and requiring a significant investment in civil infrastructure. And this is worrisome because actually 75% of the urban infrastructure that will exist in 2050 has yet to be built. We have to view this as an opportunity to get things right. And we have to be able to, through this opportunity, shape more resource-efficient cities. We can design ways, with our new cities work, to reduce global energy use, because right now, cities are responsible for 2/3 of our global energy consumption. We also have an opportunity to reduce greenhouse gases with our work in cities, as they are currently responsible for more than 70% of our global greenhouse gas emissions. And, oh, sorry, I wasn't off by one there. And we can improve resilience to climate change impacts that are happening weekly, if not daily, around the world, including the recent flooding here in Germany. And with this new infrastructure, we can improve the quality of life for a very large sector of our world's population. So clearly, cities are important. They are critical for addressing climate change and adaptation, and we need to be sure that we can build and manage these cities to provide equitable increases in well-being. One of the big challenges that we have, though, with our many major cities is that they were built before today's environmental impacts were well understood. It's similar to what our ancestors were actually dealing with in the 18th and 19th centuries, when miasma theory was prevalent. Miasma meaning pollution in Greek. They thought disease came from bad smells and filth, and that cholera, as depicted in this picture, in this painting, traveled through air and not water. So their water-based solutions, unfortunately, ended up making things worse. They were essentially fighting an enemy that they didn't fully comprehend, just as we were when we were building 20th century infrastructure. So there are 3 problems with our past approaches. First, existing infrastructure focused on systems they focused them on being permanent and having longevity. We wanted these things to last for over a century. Second, we were building standalone systems. So we were trying to solve just one problem at a time, either for water, or energy, or transportation, or shelter. And finally, these systems focused almost exclusively on end users, with very little attention paid to the many other stakeholders involved and impacted along the way. So the future really needs a new approach to cities, one that reflects both current science and the rapid and uncertain change occurring around us today. We need to lead a more flexible approach to our interconnected challenges to avoid locking in another generation of unsustainable infrastructure that ignores many stakeholders. So, what can we do? In particular, I'm talking to you students in the audience. I would like to share 3 stories of projects that my colleagues and I are working on at Stanford and have been involved with in an effort to provide more flexible solutions, and including ones that integrate systems to improve efficiencies, as well as ones that pay attention not only to end users, but to every person who is impacted along the way. And these are solutions that provide clean water in Dhaka, Bangladesh. They amplify resource recovery in the Bay Area of California, where I'm from, or where I live, I should say, and eradicating forced labor in global, in particular, material supply chains. And in each of these examples, you will see some key ingredients to successful sustainability solutions. And they are engaged partnerships from the very outset of the research, a focus on scale and spread to provide our solutions widely, and systems thinking, where all stakeholders are considered, and where there is a particular attention paid to avoiding unintended consequences. Both the first and second project that I will share are motivated by this statistic, this fact that 1 in 3 people worldwide lack access to safe drinking water. So this first project is the work of my colleague, Professor Jenna Davis, and her former student, Amy Pickering, who's now a professor at Berkeley. And it is a project that they refer to as having taken a 360-degree approach to problem solving. The project was in Dhaka, Bangladesh, considered one of the most unlivable cities on Earth. Most households have piped water, but 5 million people are living in slums, and they receive water with high levels of fecal contamination. Professor Davis's group developed a technology that has no moving parts, it needs no electricity, and it can dose water with chlorine at where it's collected from the taps. Now, this technical solution is really only a solution if people are going to use it. So, in parallel, they launched a business pilot to assess the demand for clean water and test a leasing model with landlords. Separately, they also conducted novel research through a randomized control trial to quantify the health impacts of chlorination at the point of collection and to generate credible evidence that both the government and funders needed when deciding what to invest in. And now, after 6 long years of hard work, over 10,000 households have clean water. Her team demonstrated clearly how both technology and policy innovations are more effective when designed with sustainability in mind and co-created with strong partnerships on the front lines. These partnerships are academic, related to data collection, and manufacturing and distribution, and also policy. And together, they have led to a more flexible, adaptable solution to meet immediate needs, and it is an approach that has the potential to scale and spread. The second project I'd like to share with you is a pilot wastewater treatment plant. It's on the Stanford campus, and my colleague, Professor Craig Criddle, has developed this with 2 former students, or 2 students and now colleagues, Dr. Sebastian Tillmans and Dr. Chunghyun Shin. And it's called the Kodaga Resource Recovery Center. This pilot facility enables cleaner water compared to traditional facilities through the use of advanced environmental biotechnology as well as membrane technologies. And it has energy positive and carbon neutral operations, all with a smaller footprint. Their team has been scaling this work from the lab to the campus pilot to a pilot plant in Redwood City, a local city in the Bay Area, and they are now planning to provide all irrigation water to Stanford's campus, and they would like to have it scale eventually to the city of San Jose. In blue, you can see the volume of water that each scale has been able to clean per minute, methodically going up the scaling. For San Jose, you would need to multiply that last number by 200 times to meet the city's needs. But I am confident that they are going to get there. Being on a university campus, of course, this facility was also designed to allow for the testing of new and promising technologies for the recovery of additional resources, whatever anyone wants to think up. So not just water and energy, but also people have been recovering nutrients for fertilizer, and for sustainable fire retardants, and also for renewable polymers. So for example, a project that he and I worked on many, many years ago, along with colleagues before the Kodaga Center existed, these were colleagues in chemistry and chemical engineering, we were developing fully recyclable polymer composites. The idea was that the methane, for example, produced at the wastewater treatment plant, could be fed to bacteria that store the carbon in the methane as polymer, the way you and I store fat for energy. And these polymers then can be combined with natural fibers to form all sorts of products. When their useful life is over, they can biodegrade and produce more methane to grow more polymer relatively quickly to create that closed loop. We called ourselves the Green Team. I think there are a lot of green teams here at TUM as well. And two of our students on this project launched a startup growing polymer next to wastewater treatment plants in California, Dr. Molly Morse and Dr. Allison Pija. So that Kodaga pilot facility, shown in the middle there, not only helps us understand how to scale wastewater, but it's wastewater treatment to larger and larger sites, but it also allows us to study the recovery of other resources, such as polymers, anywhere that waste methane is produced. The last project I want to mention is motivated by this statistic, that construction is the #1 industrial sector at risk of forced labor. Earlier in my talk, I pointed out that 75% of the infrastructure that has yet to be built, or in the world that's needed in the world in 2050, has yet to be built. Somebody needs to mine all of that material, and they need to build all of that infrastructure to meet this demand. And we certainly don't want it to be children or anyone that's in forced labor. And many countries, of course, have laws now, and have for a while, prohibiting the importation of goods from forced labor. But the challenge is that building material supply chains are incredibly opaque. It is very hard to know where all of the materials used in our infrastructure are coming from. So how can we help? Another example project that I've initiated recently with many colleagues is on fingerprinting cement. So cement is made up of numerous materials, many that are mined from the earth. They're shown in the middle of the slide. And we are trying to identify from the cement samples where its constituent materials were mined, in what regions of the world. And from there, we're using AI to identify the risk of forced labor in those regions. This work involves experts of earth and planetary sciences, civil engineering, operations research, artificial intelligence, law, and human rights. And there is one very brave student in the middle of that slide. He's the only student on the project right now, Antonio. He has 7 advisors. So you could either say congratulations or condolences, depending on your relationship with your advisor. But he's doing an outstanding job. And this project is an example of taking a systems perspective in addressing built infrastructure needs. If, for example, we aim to build low-carbon infrastructure for cities around the world, we want to make sure that it's not only having low embodied carbon, but also that it will have no embodied forced labor. So, particularly for the students in the audience, how might you contribute? You have your whole career ahead of you, and so you certainly don't have to do everything all at once. And you saw a bit of my work in 2 of those projects, the composites and the forced labor. But I haven't always been working in these areas, and so I'd like to share just briefly a little bit more about my path and how I ended up working on those various topics. So my degrees were mostly in civil engineering with a little bit of architecture education as well. And when I became a professor, I studied high-performance, fiber-reinforced, in particular, cement-based composites. And along the way, I learned that the cement industry was responsible for over 6% of global CO2 emissions. And I didn't really like hearing that, didn't really like being a part of that. I didn't see myself as a cement chemist to try to crack that nut. It's a big one. So I turned my attention to exploring a different kind of composite, the environmentally more friendly composites that I was just talking about, the ones that are bio-based and fully recyclable. And after many years of wonderful collaboration, I did see, though, that the building industry was very far from using these materials, and I wanted to have more impact related to the built environment, which was my passion. And it was around that time that I met a number of people working on human behavior, studying human behavior. And I had also started learning more about the rapid urbanization going on around us. And I wondered, what's it going to be like for all of these people having to live more and more on top of each other in more and more dense environments? And how can we make sure that they can still have access to nature and that their well-being can be supported? And so we started a group called the Hybrid Physical Digital Spaces group, where we were focused on environmental and social or human well-being in built spaces. I started working with a lot of new teams on this, and I branded my research lab. Never done that before, but that's because this was finally felt like something I really wanted to work on and stick with for a long time. And this work has led to working also on affordable housing, which is a very big challenge in the United States and has been for decades. And most recently, I was approached by the head of a foundation who wanted to talk to me about cement-based composites, which was on the other side. And I was thinking at first, like, how am I going to explain to this very kind woman that I don't really want to go back there? But as the conversation unfolded, I learned that what she cared about was the people mining the materials. And there were millions of people, including children, trapped in forced labor to supply the world with these building materials. And I realized that's a well-being issue, and it draws on my expertise in cement and sustainability and people, and it's back where I started. So I felt like this was a really great kind of full circle in my career. So I pulled together that team to work on forced labor in building material supply chains. And as I've gone down this path, it's kind of nice to look back and notice that there is a theme of buildings, nature, and people, although some of my colleagues are wondering how I got from materials to all of this. But I think there is a link. And I've been gaining more experience working in partnerships and thinking about scale and bringing more and more systems thinking to my work and thinking about those unintended consequences. All of this work has involved a lot of collaborations with colleagues from a variety of disciplines: chemistry and chemical engineering, computer science, psychology, law, sociology, urban planning, now human rights, artificial intelligence, geosciences. And I will admit, it has not always been easy. In retrospect, I was not very happy working on the cement-based materials. It wasn't very motivating to me. And while the composites team and collaborations were definitely a highlight, or have been a highlight in my career, the lack of potential for this material to make it anywhere in the construction industry really felt like a dead end. And when I pivoted, it was really motivating and really exciting, but I had a lot to learn. It was not easy to switch over to human subjects research, brush up on all the statistical methods. I had to learn how computer scientists and privacy experts think and work. I knew a lot about construction. The psychologists were telling me about constructs. Took me a while to catch on. But right now, I am really pretty happy. I enjoy what I'm doing, and I'm not really sure what the future will hold. But I know that along the way, every step has been very important. And where you are now, especially the students right now, is a step on your path. And I'm really excited to see that here at TUM, you are already involved in so many exciting projects that hit on a lot of the themes that I was just talking about. I've learned a bit about Plant a Seed that began as a grassroots partnership and has grown to include international partners as well. And 100 Voices that is scaling their work around the world to raise awareness and empathy for people who are experiencing significant negative impacts from climate change today. And, of course, the environmental department of the student representation, a group that demonstrates system thinking by keeping an eye out for the sustainability implications of the university's policy decisions, and they also advocate for the interests of all students in the area of sustainability. And indeed, you are truly an entrepreneurial university. This is just such a tiny sample of what's going on that I saw since I've been here. You're starting companies to create building products from hop waste, like that one, smart window foils that reflect solar heat, recycling of lithium-ion batteries, developing software and platforms to measure impact and help companies meet their ESG goals, and sensors and software solutions to enhance biodiversity monitoring. Stanford has a very similar entrepreneurial feel, and all of this is possible because we are at incredible universities who are deeply committed to supporting students, staff, and faculty to discover, innovate, and have impact. University commitment is what helps make all of this possible, along with the generous support that we receive from donors, partners, and our governments. Our Stanford Door School of Sustainability was 5 years in the making and officially launched a little less than 2 years ago, similar to your process. And thanks to the hard work of our university leaders, staff, faculty, and students, and the incredible and passionate generosity of donors like John and Andor, who are shown in pictured in the middle here at our ribbon cutting at our opening celebration. The school's distinctive three-part structure, just to explain a little bit about our door school, is designed to amplify global impact. We have 7 departments with roughly 140 faculty, and they cross engineering, natural sciences, and social sciences. We have about 1,000 students. We're small, but we're growing. And the departments are really the center of our scholarly pursuits and our education that we provide. We also have 3 interdisciplinary institutes, similar to what President Hoffman was talking about, that cross the university. And they help join everyone on campus to seek solutions for the natural environment and for energy, and soon to come, for more sustainable societies. And finally, we have a sustainability accelerator, which is helping to speed up the translation of Stanford research into impactful policy and technology solutions to address urgent sustainability challenges. Excuse me. Likewise, at TUM, the leadership clearly has made strong and bold commitments to make sustainability integral to your research and education programs, to your entrepreneurial pursuits, as well as campus operations. And like Stanford, your aspirations extend well beyond the university to local and global communities where you're already making significant impact, and governance practices, sharing your knowledge and solutions through global engagement. I am really excited to walk through the exhibit hall and see just how clearly you all are truly walking the talk. So I'd like to end by asking you, particularly the students, the following. In 20 years, when you're up here, or down here, giving a talk to hundreds of brilliant, motivated students, what will your story be? What will your path have been towards having a more positive impact on the sustainability of our lives and our planet? My hope for you is that your work will be built on strong partnerships, that it will be scaling and spreading around the world where it's needed most, and that you will have worked hard to consider all stakeholders in your solutions and worked hard to avoid unintended consequences. No matter what you choose to do and what your path is, I wish you all the very best for long and creative and fruitful careers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you. Well, thank you very much, Sarah, for really inspiring lectures. Great that to see that there's some similarities in structure. That's one thing, you know. But the main thing is there's this willingness really to collaborate together on a global scale, joining basically, let's call it the group of the willing, moving sustainability forward. And you showed it clearly that you're one of them. Thank you so much. As one of our last, but certainly not the least speakers, is really Isabella Hennessy. Isabella, you're really known here as the student representative of the last years here, giving already inspiring lectures as well. So I'm really looking forward to your contribution, because that has already been enacting by bringing the students together for this Sustainability Day. But I know that you have some really great ideas and thoughts on sustainability as a student, for our students. So welcome to the podium as well, Isabella. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Dear President, dear Professor Lang, dear Professor Billington, dear team, dear fellow students, and dear TUM community, I'm honored to be part of today's event. It's an honor to welcome all of you here, because it implies that we are all part of this, part of TUM's journey to becoming a sustainable university. From my point of view, there is a lot ahead of us, many challenges to overcome, a lot of goals to achieve, ranging from infrastructure, missing solar panels, to the lack of digitalization. We're not quite done yet, but mostly there are a lot of people to win them for joining our common journey. Because becoming sustainable as a university is nothing a single person can achieve as a lone fighter. It's nothing a single department can aim for by separating their waste. Rather, it's a common goal that all of us need to share. It will require many hours of effort, many initiatives, and many believers ready to fully commit to connect the dots, to make it an overarching goal to walk the talk. And I'm glad to say that from a student's perspective, there are already many fellow students walking ahead on the path towards becoming sustainable. I mean, look outside. There is an incredible number of initiatives, student groups, young researchers, and high-aiming talents who are investing their free time into their project, ranging from university politics to social projects, giving people a voice all over the world, up to carbon removal initiatives. There is everything. Students investing their leisure time. It is so valuable. And if you're still looking for a place to join, the environmental department of the student representatives is a good start. Connected within the university and beyond, offering so many opportunities to join, and also so many different spots where you can start to change things at this university and beyond. And if you're already doing things, take your friends along. Make them join this common ride. But it's not only our leisure time in which we demand for a more sustainable university and work for it. It's also the call for updated courses, implementing sustainability within our field of study. It's us, the young voices of this university, calling for long-lasting impact of our studies, calling to be prepared for the challenges of our future. And it's us, the young professionals, who will serve as catalysts for this common project. This project does not end at the limits of our university. It does not end at the end of our studies. It is a project that will have to connect with the whole world. It will have to have an impact on our work life, on our society, and on our planet. Later, we will hear a panel discussion from our sustainability board, elaborating on how universities drive sustainability. I'm curious to learn from it before hearing the second panel, where our task force members will take us back to this university, arguing about sustainable campus development and specifying what needs to be done right here. And in order to do so, we're setting up a network which you can join, connecting with other committed people, spreading the word of our efforts. And you may simply join by scanning the QR code behind me. You will see it in a second. It's aimed to connect people, to make sure that they are actually working together, that you know what other people will do, to make sure that it's not only this sustainability goal that we are best at, but also this one and all the others we see around. Let me wrap it up. Today is a kickoff of an already started project. But today is a kickoff for speeding it up, for connecting the pioneers, for sparking the interest of everyone. Today is the kickoff of turning this project from a project of pioneers to a project of our whole community. Making TUM sustainable will be our common vision, our common goal, and our most urgent matter for the upcoming years. And I'm proud to be part of it, together with all of you, but let's make everybody join. Thank you for joining the ride.
Well, thank you very much, Isabella, also for your ongoing support and also to all the students, not only in this space. I think all of us, whether teachers, administrative staff, presidents, offices, and everybody involved, we could not really do and move things without you. So it's really great that you are here, that you are active. To have all the activities outside, I think is absolutely fantastic. And now I would like to close this event not without saying thank you to everyone involved in the past and the present. So I think I would like to ask for some help to move this desk away. We just have a small round of thank you for the most decisive people to start out with. So I need some two strong men to move this to the side. So it's the president and myself, I guess, doing it right now, moving that to the side. And then I would like to, first of all, basically ask you, Sarah, to come here to the stage doing all the great, not only great work with communicating what you are doing, bringing in your ideas, your energy, but also sharing your thoughts. Thank you for coming to TUM and for being here. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the second one I would like to have here is really Veronica. Where is she? Now it's the time. With you, it wouldn't be possible to do all of that. So let me hug you. Thank you so much for doing that. With energy. So thanks a lot. Thank you. And I think another person is really important here who has been busy during the last 1 year, 1.5 years to collect a lot of information. I think the report we just have finished yesterday actually would not have been possible basically with all your energy, with all your staying behind things, you're making phone calls and everyone. I would like to ask you to come to the stage as well. Thank you very much. So, Isabella, where are you? Isabella, I think what I just said before, I think students are decisive. You're one of the, in a positive sense, critical students who tell us what is going wrong, but you also tell us what is going in a good way, which is proceeding. And so your voice and also your thinking and your energy was always very positive and is positive still and decisive. So thank you so much for being with us, being part of our team. So thank you very much for you as well. So please come and join us. Isabella, thank you so much. Thank you much. Thank you. So, and finally, Thomas just mentioned there is no flowers. Men don't get flowers sometimes. This time it is one of these times. But I would also like to be on stage for our photo. Without you, it would not have been possible at all. Thank you. I have to be on this side, okay? So we have to all move a little bit. So this is the sustainability. Thank you. Thank you. So we were running a little bit over time, but now we caught back some time. So this is basically the end of the opening ceremony, so to say, of our second Sustainability Day. We have now a very short intermission of about 10 minutes. We start again at 2 o'clock with our Sustainability Board now being here for answering your questions. So some of you have participated in a kind of survey. We were asking the students during the last couple of days what your questions were, what your thoughts were on how we're doing with regard to sustainability. So that's something we are going to discuss. So make sure that you're back in 10 minutes, and also my Sustainability Board colleagues get ready for the questions. We might also do a small gathering to just decide how we're doing this. This will start at 2 p.m. You want to continue already without any break?
No break now, briefing now.
Okay, the briefing is now and the discussion starts at 2, like I said. Thank you.
of the Student Council, and I'm very happy to be here and moderate this panel discussion.
Hello, my name is Alexander Bock, but please call me Alex. I'm also one of your moderators for today. I'm currently studying biochemistry at TUM, and I'm a member of Plant a Seed, and I really love nature. But you know what really sucks? Nature is dying right now, and I think every one of us is responsible for it. So let's make a change and preserve it.
All right, then, first and foremost, let's start by introducing our panelists. Let's start with Jorina Färber. Jorina, you study civil engineering, and you're a student representative in the Sustainability Board. What is one key project you're passionate about at our university?
Hello and welcome. I'm also in the environmental department of TUM, so of course I have to be biased, and that's my favorite project.
Thank you very much, Jorina. Let's also greet our panelist, Dr. Professor Werner Lang, Vice President for Sustainable Transformation. Professor Lang, what was the moment that made you, especially as a Vice President for Sustainable Transformation, particularly proud?
I am really proud of our university now moving in that direction. You know, I've studied here for some time. I studied in London at another university. Sustainability was not a topic. Then I studied at UCLA, actually, in Los Angeles after I was done here in Munich. A little bit of sustainability. And then finally I get back home to my own university after having been in Texas, where things were also moving, to come back to a place which is now pushing it really in a direct and fast way. And this makes me really proud and makes me happy to be part of such a team. It's wonderful.
Yeah, sounds amazing.
That is very nice to hear. And we are, of course, very honored to have with you Professor Dr. Sarah Billington, head of the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering, right, as I've learned in the first speech. If I may ask, which campus would you think is more sustainable? Our campus here at Garching or the one in Stanford?
I wasn't ready for that question. I really don't know the answer to that question.
Which one is prettier?
Sorry?
Which one is prettier?
Prettier.
Prettier?
Yeah, you can be honest.
It's a little hard to beat. It's pretty incredible, but no, this is an amazingly beautiful campus as well, and really impressive. What else did you want me to say? Sorry.
Excuse
Just
me?
about impressions about the two.
Yeah, which campus what do you like about the campus in Garching?
The campus. Oh, I'm always overwhelmed at the size of engineering buildings in Europe, because our university is pretty small. So we also have a nice campus, a nice building, but just the energy and the amount of students here and in these beautiful buildings, I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah. Thank you. Also, welcome to Professor Dr. Alvin Monen, a member of the TUM Sustainability Board from the Chair of Corporate Management. So, Alvine, how does corporate management even relate to sustainability?
Well, corporate management sounds maybe strange because it looks like I'm just looking at big companies and nothing else. But what we are doing in research is that we look at behavior. How do people make their decisions? And it's more complicated if we look at sustainable decisions, because what is quite different to other decisions is that it's not very often related to a directly measurable outcome, and it's more long-term oriented. And this is quite interesting to look at, because we have to find frameworks, incentive systems, as we call it in our research, to foster, to enable these sustainable decisions. And in the end, a company is also run by a human being. So there is not the corporate world, which is an abstract thing. It is a person running a company. And these persons, as Kahneman once put it in a speech, says, it's a factory that makes decisions. And in the end, I wanted to find environmental friendly frameworks that help us to enhance more sustainable behavior on the individual and on the corporate level.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. And it's my pleasure to introduce, as the last panelist on this discussion, Professor Dr. Miranda Schroyers, the Chair of Environmental and Climate Policy and a representative of the Sustainability Board. I'm going to be honest, I Googled your name and I saw you were in an ethics committee. What did you do and how did that make you feel?
Yeah, so I think you're referring to the first ever globally established committee that was looking at the ethics of energy after the Fukushima nuclear accident. It was established by Angela Merkel and led by the former environment minister, Klaus Topfer, who you may have heard passed away this weekend, and one of his last acts was actually to come to Munich and talk with students. So that was, for me, a real honor to be involved with these activities and to have a chance to take the knowledge we have here in academia and bring it into the policy-making world with some policy advising, which not only had impacts here in Germany, but actually globally. So I feel really honored by it.
Yeah, I think we also feel very honored if you tell us that now. Very amazing. So let's dive deeper into this discussion. So let us explore how universities and sustainability are conjoined. I'm excited and honored that every one of the panelists made it today, and thank you so much for being here, and let's discuss how we can all contribute to a more sustainable future. So in this discussion, we explore how universities can take the lead in shaping a sustainable future, addressing scientific, economic, ecological, and social challenges. We will look into the dynamic landscape of sustainability in education and research, examining the crucial role universities play in pushing innovation and making an impact. So, let's start with our first part of this panel discussion, and let's talk about the necessity for sustainable transformation of our political, social, and economic system. So, Miranda, from a political and social science perspective, what are universities even responsible for?
Do you know that universities are, on the one hand, some of the biggest energy users and resource users in any city? We heard that a little bit in Professor Hoffman's presentation. So on the one hand, it's also a question of how do we as institutions reduce our footprints? But I think even more importantly, we are the locations where the leaders of the future are trained, provided with new skills, where networks are formed, where internationalization happens. And in this sense, to the extent that we as an institution can provide students with new ways of thinking, being critical, questioning how things have been done in the past, thinking about where do we want to go in the future, trying to break out of pathways that have been existing for a long time but may no longer fit our current environmental and social needs, and to think, okay, let's be creative how we can do it. How can we do it? And to use the energy of the young people. You guys have so much energy. You are amazing. You really are great. To use that energy to bring about the change that needs to happen right now and in the next couple of years and in the next couple of decades.
Yeah, true. Do the others agree? Is that the only responsibilities maybe universities have? Anyone? Or is it fine?
Well, I would like to add that we always also have, like the way how we do research, for example, how we use resources in our own research as a point which we could add. And one point I see on top of this is that we have to develop new technologies and new processes which are in one way more affordable, which are competitive on the market and are sustainable on the other hand. You know, from research, we know that decision makers look at the costs and they look at how convenient, how easy things are, you can use them. And this is the same is true for our companies because they are in a global competition. And therefore, I see this research responsibility too for us to develop new technologies that help us on the sustainable path.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Research is a responsibility. So, Professor Dr. Werner Lang, or Werner, so we talked about the TUM's sustainability strategy. Maybe could you sum it up real quick, what it is, or what it is about?
Well, it's basically really the attempt to integrate all aspects related to sustainability. I mean, we have the 3-column model, so to say. We have the sustainable development goals with all the different sub-goals, so to say. I mean, in my view, it's really the ability on the one hand, but also the clear will of us as a university, not only to enhance social sustainability or economic sustainability, or especially ecological sustainability, and bringing them together also in an integrated way, because they're all depending on each other. But I think it's also to bring it on the road. You know, it was mentioned already this morning to really have entrepreneurship as a main topic there. So where we really use research for enhance our teaching, getting you included, right? So using research also then basically for finding new solutions, but then also then transferring it into reality. So we're doing that. And in addition to that, which is not in the Sustainable Development Goals as such or in the 3-column model, is really to bring in our own community. It is in there in a certain way, but not as open as we are pushing it. The communication is one thing, the internal communication, but also the global collaboration, which we are doing there. And I think this is really, really key. I mean, we're all in the same boat. This is one planet we are having. And to have this kind of approach of pushing, let's say, science in the sense of new knowledge to develop solutions on all levels, but then to walk the talk, to really show that we're really serious about it here with regard to our own doing, but then also to communicate that and strengthen the networks, whether it's the TU9 we are part of, or the Eurotech Alliance, or more on a global scale where we are trying to collaborate with the best universities we have on this planet in order to push things.
Yeah, sounds really good. But let's be a bit critical now. We heard what responsibility of university might be. Does TUM meet with those strategies we just heard, our ambitions? Do they meet the responsibilities right now? Do you think that the strategy meets it?
Well, I mean, if you look at the figures and numbers with regard to CO2 emissions or also waste we are generating, we're having these discussions with Clarissa. It's not only the hospitals which are wasting a lot of materials and so on. I think you could be really critical that we are starting late. You know, there might be others who have started earlier. There might be even single buildings in some of the other universities' campuses, which might be energy neutral or even positive already. But I think as a kind of a holistic approach, I think we are really serious about it. You can be critical by saying that we are not there yet, that we are still walking the talk. But I think what is really important that we are now walking the talk only for these couple of months, like I mentioned before, around noon. And I think we now know already where we stand in most of the areas. So that's the baseline, and we have a clear view of what the next steps will be to achieve the goals. So we have a lot of measures actually in our strategy, which we are actively following. So you can control us, or people can control us from the outside, whether we really are getting there or what we are doing. And I think that's a great thing. We cannot wait that saying, oh yeah, we have some photovoltaics now on the building for the mathematics or the informatics, then most of the people, they hear PV and they go like, oh yeah, they're really doing it. But it's much more. And so we are doing it basically in an integrated way, which is key.
Okay. Yeah. So now I want to ask a student about this topic. Jorina, what do you think? Does TUM walk the talk?
First of all, we have to say okay, what are our ambitions? We have great ambitions, and for us students, it's really important because our future is at stake. So we really want to have a university that supports sustainability and is able to shape the future how we like it. So right now our motto is we walk the talk. So, and at talking, the TUM is really good. I mean, we've come to this place and already achieved a lot. For example, the TUM Sustainability Future strategy 2030 was published, and within the whole progress, we students were met with open ears. And we were involved in the whole progress, and during it after the publication. So that's quite nice that we feel like we're getting heard, and the TUM is actually interested and is taking sustainability serious. Now for the other part, the walk. So like Werner mentioned, it's quite hard and we are just at the start, but we are starting and we are on the right path. It's just really important that we stay consistent and don't lose our goals in the long term, and it's going to really take a lot of time and effort to meet those goals. So it's really important in the next time to keep working and fighting for sustainability. Because for us young people, we really want to be equipped for the future. What do we need to learn at this university? And because we really want to be prepared for challenges ahead, and we don't even know which are those challenges now, so we really need good knowledge and a skill set to be prepared for the future.
Okay, what do the others think? Maybe you would like to comment on Urina's?
I'm going to just jump in here and say it's great that things are starting to happen and a lot is happening, and you go outside this event right here and there's so much more going on. That's all terrific. And the other thing I'm going to say, we also have to be careful not to say, okay, we're doing well, because just remember, 2030, we're looking at 2030 and asking how are we going to stay within this 1.5 degrees Celsius target range, and globally we're way off, and actually the universities should be the ones who are at the forefront, and we're not. We need to be. We have the SDGs here. There's 17 SDGs, 169 targets. We are way off track to most of them. We will not fulfill these SDGs if we do not move a whole lot faster and with much more intensity. And the universities should be at the forefront here. And we need to be thinking about what happens after 2030. The SDGs are out of date after 2030. We need a whole new process to be thinking about what are we doing up through 2040, 2050, which means that the universities, as places of thinking, of engagement, we should be thinking about immediate steps, midterm steps, and long-term steps. And what can we do? I would say we need to push the universities to say we need a global university commitment. The 9 universities, terrific. First step, collaboration with Stanford, terrific. Now let's take this up and bring it to another level, and let's have a global university pact to say we believe in these targets and these goals, and let's make them happen, and let's make the universities be the pioneers in terms of what's going on. And not say, oh, that's too big of a challenge. Let's do it.
Mm-hmm. So would you say that TUM is currently not walking their talk?
I would say that TUM is walking, but we need to be running.
That's a great answer. That's a really great answer. You want to add something? Yeah.
What I would like to add is that you could make a difference between different fields, like campus and how we use and implement our infrastructure. That's quite, let's say, easy in a short-term way to change things, at least some of them. Some, I know, are not, because we need the politicians to make these decisions for us, or we depend on the city of Munich. And for teaching, it's kind of easy to implement at least some sustainable content. What is more difficult, I find, is the research part. Because for our tenure-track professors, and especially for them, their targets, their goals are publications in top journals. Journals are usually in one field, and there's interdisciplinary topics, which are usually in a sustainable environment then, or let's say a sustainable project is very often an interdisciplinary one. It's more difficult than to publish at a very high level. And here I see somehow a distance between that what we wanted to have and where we currently are. And this is something TUM itself can't change, but we have maybe to deal with that problem and see how we can handle it. And TUM does this now for itself to some extent, as our president has said in the last speeches, that impact on society is a very important measure for our university, and we will try to measure that one. Well, yes, but for the tenure-track decisions and for the academic job market, it is not so far. This is kind of a thing which is very hard. And Sarah, I would be very interesting to know how you look at this question from a Stanford point of view.
The question of impact? Yeah, no, it's a really, really great point. I think, actually, I'd love to just build off of a couple things that both of you said, and everybody, like education for students, for sure. And I think another place that we see a lot of education is when we get into these partnerships. So wanting to formulate our research questions with the people who are going to use what we're trying to develop. So that we know that we're asking the right questions from the beginning, as opposed to like creating something and then tossing it over the university fence and saying, just use it. You know, so we're trying to, there's a lot of education that way for the researchers to learn from the people that will use it, which is common in a lot of fields, but not everybody that's working on sustainability approaches it that way. So that's one thing I want to say about education. And then, but to do that kind of work, like what I was showing in my talk earlier, it took 6 years for that research team to be able to have clean water for 10,000 people. Like, if Professor Davis wanted to reach all of the people that needed clean water, that would be her whole career. You know, she'd have to spend her whole career just on that one project. And so we have to have a way to carry that work forward, probably based from the university, so it's sort of with like partnership managers or people that can get that work out there. So the professor's still involved, because they know it best, but they don't have to spend all of their time building partnerships, for example. They can do something more creative. And so I think that's a change for universities to have to focus on developing that kind of staffing to help get those things out, or having more partnerships with nonprofits or something that are just more tightly linked to really get stuff out. And then on the impact thing, exactly like if another colleague of mine was working on heat stress in the informal settlements in India, and he was an assistant professor. And it was just taking so much, like he was able to do these really novel things with sparse data, but then it's like to get it to be used more, it would take up too much of his time, and it wouldn't have helped him get tenure necessarily, which is frustrating because he really wants to have that impact. But I will say that impact, it really varies. Like now that we're in the door school, so engineers, we think of impact, civil engineers at least, like you could influence the building code. That's not going to have any citations. So we're not some of us don't care as much about citation indices as others, whereas in some other fields, it's all about the citation index and just getting lots of like nature and science papers and stuff. So there's a lot of cultural differences just within the university around what is impact. But I think excellence in research is, that's pretty clear, excellence in scholarship. And then the way it's making impact, we can make arguments that, well, they changed the building code, that's impact. This person has a huge citation index, that could be considered impact. But I think it's more about changing the field or changing the way people do things. I think that's the impact that we tend to look at more so than citations. Yeah.
Thank you so much for this answer.
All right, then I would quickly ask again for Sarah Billington. You've heard the speech of Professor Hoffman. You've heard our approach regarding the transformation and sustainability. Do you see any differences between the one we chose here at TUM and the one at Stanford?
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities, for sure. So when I read through the list of and I was talking about it also earlier, in terms of the research and the education and the campus operations and the engagement, like that's all very similar. I think what's very different, I guess, at Stanford is that we ended up forming a school. And part of that was that we wanted to be able to give out degrees and certificates and things that are focused on sustainability across lots of different fields. And so that was And another reason for it was that we have 7 schools at Stanford, and there was like little pockets of sustainability here and there, and then kind of a larger centers that were focused on it, and it was hard for people from the outside to know where to plug in, and it was hard for them to really coordinate on a lot of their work. And so that was kind of the idea of bringing a whole school together, and to be the kind of almost like the concierge. You go there first, and then you figure out where to go on campus to do the sustainability work. So I see that as a difference, but I don't think one's more effective than another. It was just what worked for us. Stanford is very decentralized. It's really easy for people to work on the exact same thing and never know that they're both working on it. I don't know, maybe that happens here too.
It does, yeah. But I think the way we are setting it up now helps.
Helps connect the dots.
Yeah, cross disciplines.
Exactly, yeah.
All right, maybe Miranda, you can answer. What is your opinion on the differences? You've heard them now. What do you think?
Yeah, actually, I think there are some similarities in terms of also here we're trying to find ways to break down some of the barriers between disciplines so that you can create more of this horizontal thinking. And by talking with faculty and students and other departments, you hear a different vocabulary and a different focus, and that is supposed to actually open your mind. And when you put people together in a room who come from different disciplines and say, well, what are the problems that are really worrisome to you, but also what might be some of the solutions that can be created, you'll get very different answers if you talk to these people alone in their own discipline, or if you talk to them in a group where they're trying to understand each other and think about the different inputs they're hearing when it comes from something they've never thought of before. And I think that's the direction universities everywhere need to move more towards. I think what we also need to do, and I think this was Alvin's point, that the structures of the universities, they're 150 years old. And they don't actually meet the needs of many of the problems we have today. So we're going to have to break down more barriers within our university structures, as well as within our ranking structures and how we evaluate people who are coming up for tenure, or how students are even being evaluated. I think a lot of these things, they're what we call governance instruments. And maybe we need to modernize the governance of universities and the structure of universities to be better able to deal with the big kinds of problems that are out there. And we're also seeing technological change that is going to impact us in ways that we're only now beginning to kind of understand just a little bit here and there. We're going to have to understand how artificial intelligence, how international developments are going to impact upon what the university looks like. And we need to do it in a way that we maintain our focus on that big problem solving that needs to happen. And it's sustainability in all of its dimensions. It's responsible consumption. Our university still hasn't yet managed to get to the point where we recycle our biomass. We should be. When we look at affordable and clean energy, we're getting there, but we need to do a lot more in the heating structure, as we heard before. Gender equality, that's one of my themes too. Got to keep working on it, right? So things are happening, but we need to think about the governance structures, how they implement and make opportunities or close doors for change. And students have a big opportunity to have voice here and to say, you know, we're noticing in the way we're being taught this works, but this doesn't work. And to talk with us about what needs to change and how can we change it.
Thank you very much. Now let's get to a more critical topic where maybe students don't have that much representation in yet. It is about Professor Werner. How can the TUM call itself sustainable when we have platinum partners in major arms companies?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very important question, and I think as a technical university, having been doing research in the high-tech field, not only information technologies, but also machinery and so stuff, and we have always done this in a very open way, right? So we are collaborating with companies which are able to provide not only research, but also mechanisms to guarantee our safety. So if you would have asked me this question, let's say 10 years ago, I would have given you probably a different answer from today. 10 years ago, my reference point would have been that my father got killed when I was 17 and a half by a drunk driver. So this drunk driver, he was not killed, he was not even put into prison, but he ruined the life of my mother, of us being involved. And so I was struggling hard with that person actually getting not punished personally, but I accepted the fact that our society is believing in a human being and the life of each human being, even somebody's life who by accident drank too much and killed my father, right? So I really believe in humanity, I really believe in social justice and justice as such, and I also believe in freedom. And if we as TUM are doing research in certain areas guaranteeing our safety in our democratic environment, I'm now seeing the threat we are facing in our neighboring countries. I see the necessity that we're doing it. And we're doing it in a transparent way. We are not hiding that. We are standing to the rights and the principles of our democratic society. And that's unfortunately part of it right now.
Thank you very much for that answer. And as a quick question, maybe I didn't get it correctly for myself, because I'm also a student, I'm very interested in this topic as well. So you're saying you have, you believe in the good of humanity, and that is why you believe the weapons will be used correctly? Or
no, we are at stake. We are threatened by our openness, by our democracy, by our social system, by our economy. We are really threatened. And I think we have to somehow show some other countries, and you know whom am I talking about, that we are not willing to give up, that we are not just waiting for the others to take over, others to kill us, and we have to put something against that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anything the other panelists like to add?
I have to jump in and say I agree 100%, because one of the things that is also necessary in society are rules and regulations and an international order. And when you have actors who break the rules and are allowed to just keep marching on, then you are threatening the entire functioning of a system. And behind this, it's also a question of what you value, and do you value democracy? And do you value the right to freedom of speech, which is actually one of the SDGs, peace, justice, and strong institutions. And sometimes you need military to defend justice, and you need military to defend peace. And so yes, unfortunately, I have to agree 100% with Werner on this one. Universities in their technological development also are playing a role in a security realm where I can understand, especially young people who would be the first who would be asked to serve in a war would say, we don't like this. I'm the generation of Vietnam. I remember asking my dad, are my brothers going to have to go to war? I remember not liking that, and I think it's right to question each and every war, but sometimes there are times when you have to say, the values here are so important, they have to be protected.
All right, thank you. If you could. Sarah, you seemed like you wanted to add.
Just a very small thing to add.
Yeah,
I completely agree. So sort of +1 to both of those sets of comments. Just a very small thing to add is there's also a lot of very positive outcomes that like defense funding can lead to just for civilian applications. Mm-hmm. So in healthcare, in disaster response, emergency management, infrastructure protection. So it has a wider reach as well.
All right. Then I would move on to the next question, which is a bit more harmless because this was a really hot topic. Let's get a bit more calmed down. Maybe Alvine. Do you think our ambitions to be the most excellent technical university is in conflict with our interest in being sustainable?
No. My clear answer is no, because I think if you look at the word sustainable, what does it mean? It means being long-term successful. And if we wanted to be in the long run a successful, a top university, an excellent university, there is no contradiction. And in the end, I think we are in a good way. We have here, as you have heard this morning, this afternoon, a strong commitment. A strong implementation has started. Of course, there are things we still have to do, and we have to keep the focus on that. And what Miranda and Werner have just said, and also what you said before, like that there are other changes in this world, it's not so clear to keep that focus. For example, this morning I read in Handelsblatt, which is one of the most important business media newspapers in Germany, that our companies lost some focus on sustainability. So in 2 years ago, in a ranking 2022, sustainability was third ranked. Now it's on ranking number 7. And why? What are the answers? They say we have other challenges. It's digitization, it's cybercrime, it's the global competition, cost efficiency, shortage of labor skill. So there are changes in the world, and we experienced in the last 2 years maybe such strong changes that we have not expected to happen, at least not so quick, and not in this huge amount of things that is also happen simultaneously. And as a university, so far we are a little bit protected, but I'm not sure how in the end also these things will have an impact on us. And we have to be aware to keep that focus on sustainability and, of course, on all these excellence aspects regarding teaching, regarding research, yes, but it might be harder than it was before.
All right, then I would ask.
Yes, we come to our final round because time is ticking. And I will just get to one very interesting question from our community. Students often want to implement change at the university, but then they often hear the answer that needs to be decided by TUM. But who exactly makes up this TUM, and how can we tackle this answer when somebody says this to me, for example, how can I implement change? Maybe who wants to start talking about?
Yeah, I'm probably the one who tells my students the most you have to do something. You heard, whenever there's something wrong in teaching or whatever, and it's true. I can just tell you my view of my experience, having been a student a long time ago, and then also teaching assistant long time ago, and so on. There was, at that time when I started here, nobody was really, in my view, listening too much to students. It was just really run top down, that's it. As an assistant already, we started basically organizing ourselves, but we wouldn't be heard. But at that time, then the students were heard already. So for instance, for the search committees, there would be, I can say that now from my experience, there is no professorship going through without you being not only part of it, but you agreeing completely with that new professor. And I think that's already a sign that we are taking you extremely seriously in your wishes by saying, the core of a university is the professors, is the people we get in here, doing the research, doing the teaching, and so already that is a great thing. With regard to our governance structure, with regard to the board, which we are here right now, so it also would not be thinkable without having students being part of that, pushing things. So maybe we are going to address that later on once more from your side, being part on that side. That's a very open process, very transparent, and again, we would not try to overrule you, but I mean, you are the ones who are either suffering from what we're doing or benefiting it, and we would be stupid to make you suffer, right? So again, with all the committees, you are part of that. And so I would say, if you as a single student, if you're not happy with something, the first thing I would recommend you is really to team up, to talk to your student representative, not necessarily always Isabella. I guess there's a lot of others out there who are playing different roles in different committees and so on. But the administration, the self-administration of the students is part of an important and very prominent part of our community. So don't complain, that's my recommendation. Don't complain in a single way or suffer without complaining even, but make your voice heard and go to your representative in order to address that up to the level of our governance structures, whether it's our board or the task force or even the president's office.
Do you want to add something?
Yeah, I just want to say, as part of the environmental department, you're really welcome to talk to us, to come to us. We're really open, and we are actually like our language is English to make it more inclusive. So you're really welcome to talk to us. But as a student representative, we need to know whom we are talking to. So like you mentioned, like the whole structure, for us it's really important to know who we can talk to, who is responsible for what. And sometimes people change jobs or we've got a new colleague. So to really be up to date and know which person we have to address, that was really important for us as a student representative.
Yeah, okay, well taken.
Okay, then maybe as a last and final question, the motto is, how can we walk the talk? And that is also the question I would give every one of you. How could we, now we talked about sustainability, but how can we ensure we really walk that talk? Maybe everyone has one or two sentences on that topic, starting from you, Miranda.
I can say a walk is a whole lot more fun when you do it with other people. And as a professor, one of the things I like to do is walk with my students and sometimes even run. And I have seen some real success. I was really happy to see 100 Voices up here. That was a project that came out of one of my classes where I said during the Corona times, you guys, let's do something that the rules of the university don't actually permit, and let's have you guys do some group projects that aren't written-based, and let's do some of this and that. And that's what they came up with. And it's been a project that's been going on ever since. So sometimes it's being a little bit willing to be a little bit flexible in things, breaking down a couple of barriers, walking with the students and saying, you guys, you know what, I'm only walking, why don't you start running?
Yeah,
and they do.
Yeah, thank you very much. Alvina, what's your take on it?
As it was said before, everybody counts, and each and everybody. And I would also say what you said, be a bit brave. So be a bit risky. Try to do something, try to change things, and in the end also ask questions. Ask what is the status of the implementation of our strategy, if you would like to. Because if people are a little bit critical in our system, we will work maybe a little bit better, more faster, more efficient.
Yeah, thank you. Irina.
Yeah, for us, of course, we students, we make up the vast majority at TUM. So, and if we should be engaged, it should really not taken for granted, because it is a privilege to have the time and the energy to be active. So we need more ways for people to be active. For example, to integrate student engagement into our studies, because a lot of people do not only learn and achieve their degree at a university, they have to work beside that to pay their bills, especially in Munich, where housing is so expensive. So we would need a system that we can integrate our volunteering work into our studies. And the next point is for our student clubs and the student representation, that we get a higher budget and we can finance our project better, because then we can have a greater impact. But last but not least is, of course, having fun while doing that, while running, and feeling that we can make a difference.
Yeah, thank you. Beautiful answer. Sarah, maybe you have a tip how we can walk our talk?
I think I would say, just from my own experiences, like stay very open to diverse perspectives and a variety of voices, like maybe from places you would least expect it. I think asking lots of questions, so people ask to meet and I think, oh, I don't have time for this, but they'll ask something and it'll spark something. It's always been those kind of human interactions with different people that have led me to think differently about things and that have opened doors for, looking or getting more into sustainability, actually. And also, I'd also say that when you do that, it's hard to, you always feel like you're asking dumb questions, but don't worry about it. Just ask and ask until you understand, and then I think you'll see how these new perspectives can change how you're doing your work. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And Werner?
Yeah, for me, two things are really important. You can make us now accountable. The report is out. You can ask us exactly where we stand in a year from now, in 2 years from now, and you should be doing that, and you're part of it, right? So that's one thing. And the other one, I think, is really all the little initiatives you're doing. You know, how Plant the Seeds started, you know, this was, it was taken like, yeah, it's urban farming, so it doesn't produce as much, so it's not worth it. It is worth it. Every little thing you're doing is absolutely worth it, showing that it can be done. We in Germany, we are so much, you know, when something new comes up, we know 10 reasons why that won't work. That's how we act in Germany. And you're showing with the little projects, no, it can be done, just go for it, you know. And so I think to do both, make one accountable, you know, asking us, challenging us as a community, including yourself, on the one hand, and then just come with the craziest stuff and do it together with us. That's what I would wish for speeding it up.
Yeah, very inspiring. Thank you.
Well, then thank you very much for this amazing discussion. And let's have a big round of applause for our panelists.
Yeah.
Starting
with Jorina Färber. Thank you very much for being here.
Then, of course, Professor Dr. Werner Lang.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Professor Dr. Sarah Billington, for coming here. Thank you.
And of course, Professor Dr. Alwine Mohnen.
And last but not least, Professor Dr. Miranda Scheuers, thank you for being here. Yeah, that was an amazing discussion. Please, everyone, stay tuned for our next panel discussion about the topic of TUM in transformation and stay sustainable.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second panel discussion on TUM in transformation. My name is Lucian Haag. I study computer science here at TUM, and I was a bit disappointed about the amount of sustainability in my lectures. It was completely non-existent. That's why I became the representative of the environmental department of the student council in hopes of changing exactly this.
Yeah, and also hello from me. I'm Alexander Bock, but please call me Alex. I'm also one of your moderators for today. I'm currently studying biochemistry here at TUM, and I'm really enthusiastic about nature, and I'm also a member of Plant a Seed. So I really love nature, but you know what really sucks? Nature is dying, and I think every one of us plays a part in it, so let's change it and preserve it. Okay, I'm very excited and honored today to be here with all of the panelists. Thank you so much for being here, and let's discuss how we can all contribute to a more sustainable future at our university. In this discussion, we will talk about strategic campus development at TUM with insights from the members of the Task Force Campus Development, the TUM Sustainability Office, and our student representative. We will explore the challenges and opportunities advancing TUM's sustainable transformation. The focus will be on key areas such as energy efficiency, buildings, waste management, and mobility.
All right, then first and foremost, let's get to introducing our panelists. Let's start with our student representative on the Task Force Sustainable Campus Development, Paul Bachmann. Paul, what do you study, and what's one key project you're excited about?
So I study informatics just like you, and I as well don't really have any sustainability topics in my courses. For me, of course, teaching isn't really part of the task force, but that's also a big project. But I'm really excited about mobility. When I think about our campuses and the feedback we always get from students as student councils or Fachschaften, has a lot to do with mobility and just the campuses not really being walkable or bike-friendly, and I would love to change something about that.
Thank you.
Let's also meet Tobias Michel, the head of TUM's Sustainability Office. So, Tobias, what motivated you in the first place to get involved into the whole topic of sustainability?
Well, what motivated me was that from the early childhood, also in the family, it was a very important topic. Starting with nature preservation, but in the end, sustainability is a much broader topic. I was discussing just earlier with our Gender and Diversity Office that this is also a huge part of sustainability. So this holistic aspect of sustainability is what motivated me, especially during my studies of geography many, many years ago. And so I decided to turn that into my profession and start the Sustainability Office at TUM.
Yeah, very inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you. Then let me introduce you to Professor Dr. Benedikt Buchser. You're a professor of urban design, if I looked it up correctly, and also, of course, a member of the task force. Benedikt, in your opinion as an urban designer, what is one challenge in creating a sustainable campus?
Yeah, you already named it. Mobility is, but there's not one challenge. There's a lot of challenges, and that's so nice about my field, that it combines all of these different disciplines and fields. And I guess for me, as an urban designer, the biggest challenge is integrating and pushing forward all of these different aspects.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, let's also welcome Professor Dr. Stefan Pauleit, member of the Task Force Sustainable Campus Development and Professor of Strategy and Management of Landscape Development. So, Stefan, when you walk over our campus here in Garching, what are your feelings?
Depends maybe on the day of the time of day and the weather conditions. What I see here is, of course, that it's a massive development. The campus has grown enormously over the past 10, 15 years, and I see a lot of concrete. I see a lot of big buildings that, but I don't see that much green here on the campus. That should not say that there's no green at all. It's also, there are, of course, parts of it that have green corridors, etc. But so my first impression that it is a very kind of stony environment. And that is, of course, of concern for me, because as a landscape planner, we are interested in bringing green to the city, making these environments more livable. And I believe that this is also very important for university environments, because there are many people working here, many people studying here, and it's not only where you live, where you are affected by your environment, but also where you work.
Nicely said. Thank you.
All right, and then last but not least, Professor Thomas Auer. You're a professor of building technology and climate responsive design, and of course a member of the task force. Thomas, what is one sustainable design you personally would love to see here at the campus in Garching?
Oh, that's a really good question. I mean, the one thing I would reinforce is like, how do we deal with the buildings? I mean, Stefan just mentioned that many buildings have been built. Many buildings here have been built in eras, in periods like this 80s, 90s, where energy efficiency was not on the top of the agenda, let's put it this way. So there's big potential. So whenever we walk in buildings here, which are big energy eaters, basically, we see huge potential. And I think it would be great to address this while also providing a nicer environment. I think that's, like Ben mentioned, the question is how do we bring together so that it makes fun? I mean, sustainability should also make fun.
All right, thank you very much. Then as a quick note, I would just note here, we have no women on this panel, which is personally really sad. But of course, we chose not men for this panel, of course. We chose based on the position at TUM and on this position, how you can contribute to this panel discussion, of course. But this also sends a very bad sign that there is almost no females in leading positions here at TUM. Or like, not almost none, but there are more men. So maybe we can see next year a panel discussion with more women, which is something we would definitely note down for the next Sustainability Day. All right.
You can hire a female urban designer addition to me anytime. I'm happy for more help.
All right.
Maybe one point about that, when you come to Weinstefan to see who is studying landscape architecture and landscape planning, I would say it's now 70% women, 30% men. So we only need later to appoint them here. Then
All
it's
right.
working
Okay.
out.
So that is a challenge. Okay, now let's dive deeper into this discussion. We will start with a few general questions. Maybe, Tobias, we start with you. What is TUM currently doing to create awareness for sustainable measures? Or, in other words, are there deficiencies in awareness for sustainable measures right now?
Well, we're here in one of the biggest measure for creating awareness, which is the TUM Sustainability Day. I mean, that's why we're doing this whole event, to create awareness for the topic and to bring everyone together who is related to the topic and potentially interested. Besides that, of course, we are having communications via the internet, through the website. We just launched the TUM Sustainable Communities Network today, where you can sign up as a member of TUM to our Teams channel to join the discussions with like-minded people. And we transparently publish all the information that we create. So the TUM Sustainable Futures Strategy 1.5 years ago, the TUM Sustainable Futures Report today, and our Climate Action Plan a few days ago. So all the information is there, and we're definitely working on increasing the visibility on that, because that is a deficit at the moment, for sure.
Okay, so we're speaking of communication right now. There's directly another question for you. Maybe how could we be more transparent? How could we show more what we do? Do we need more communication and sharing of the measures we address those sustainability goals?
Well, that's a gradual process, and we need resources for that. Our corporate communications center, the colleagues there, they're already doing a lot to increase the amount of sustainability content, to specifically flag it and tag it in our news items that we have. So it's a process that is ongoing, but we still need more, and we still need different formats, and we're working on the different formats, especially in the follow-up to this day.
Do the others think we are transparent enough? Do the others think we create enough awareness for sustainability at the moment? At TUM here? Do you have any experiences with it? Yes?
Maybe I jump in. Of course we are not. I mean, of course this, let's say this board and has just started, this initiatives has just started, and of course we are not patient enough, and we can't be patient. All the emissions we emit today are in the atmosphere, so time is working against us and we have to be fast. And so to that regard, I think it's never enough, but we try as good as we can, we try hard, and I think it's a requirement for all members of TUM at every level, and when everybody contributes, we get better. And I think that's the message, that should be the message of this event here. We have to work on this all together to become better.
Yeah, sure. Okay, Paul, maybe for you, when trying to achieve the sustainability goals of TUM, do you think TUM is currently doing enough out of a student perspective?
So I'm in the task force since October last year, and so far we've talked a lot about energy and buildings, which we as student representatives do support because they are some of the largest emissions contributors. But there are other topics that are really important for students just in their day-to-day life. For example, mobility, which also causes tons of emissions, and food, which is not yet included in TUM's emissions calculations. Yeah, so I hope to see more work on these topics. But I find one thing really important to note. Students are not the students. We're really different. A lot of us are involved in sustainability issues already, but a lot of us also aren't. And that's a challenge for us, but it's also a great strength of the students that we're that diverse. We have people from so many different places, with so many different backgrounds, of all genders, and we need to include these people in the discussions and in all the gremiums that we have at TUM for student participation. And a lot of that is in German as well, which makes it harder for internationals to get involved. Yeah, but I guess also what Sarah Billington said before is really true, that new perspectives can really spark action. And we need to use that perspective that we get. Many, many people across the world have been living under the consequences of climate inaction of the global north for centuries. And they have unique insights into the problems that they're facing there. And yeah, they, I think, deserve to have a seat at the table when we now finally talk about the solutions.
So you would say diversity in this context is really important?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe we could take that as another note to get more females into the discussion next year.
All right, thank you very much. Then let's move on and talk about our climate action plan. Maybe a question to all the members of the task force. How do you exactly see the role of the task force in transforming the TUM campus sustainable, or TUM sustainable?
We just discussed that during our last meeting, and we were asked about that, and I think the answers are individual. But I think we as task force members, we don't have infinite time. So I see us as a gremium that can be addressed by people who have certain interests, who have certain ideas, issues from all sides. We can then try to get into conversation, or them into conversation with partners, because we also discovered, especially concerning the campus, especially concerning the Stammgelände, we have to talk to the city of Munich to achieve anything, or to the Bavarian government, etc., etc. So I see us more like a transition wheel, and less as a management board or a decision board or something like that. I don't know if the others agree to spark initiatives, etc.
All right. Maybe do the others want to add something?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we are a kind of advisory board that can support initiatives, of course, and we represent different perspectives on this board. And that is very important because the topic of climate change mitigation or protection and adaptation is a very complex one. And we need to make sure that nothing is really getting lost in perspectives in this process that we have started. And of course, the basic resources for doing things, for providing expertise and so, that we cannot bring in, but that needs to be provided by the university itself. And we can then discuss that and try to back up things and speed up with that things. That's very important, such a body, I think, because otherwise there would be only single persons or so that would need to do the entire thing, and that's impossible simply for such a huge task.
All right, thank you very much. So you see yourself more as a supporting role, and do you have any idea how to finance this transformation? Is there anything on your mind about, because transforming a whole university does cost a lot of money. Did you already talk about finance and money?
I think there are a lot of sources that have to be tapped, but in the end we have to also address the president.
Yeah, I would say two things to that. First, becoming energy efficient also saves a lot of money. Just how the system is designed, that money doesn't go to TUM. It's state money, I guess. So I guess that question has also a big political part, to make the processes or change them in a way that makes it easier to make things more sustainable, because on the long term it does pay off. And the other thing is, we have seen transformative things happening at TUM, like the school restructuring, which was done through the Excellence Strategy or Excellence Initiative, and similar ideas could also apply to sustainability topics. So there is money to be gotten from all different places, and I think we should use all of them.
All right, thank you very much. Maybe right on the topic of energy, maybe Thomas, you can tell us, buildings, they use a lot of energy. How could we reduce the demand, and how could we increase the efficiency?
I mean, we have to look building by building at the end of the day. So at the first, I mean, it's a mix of things. It's a mix of conservation of energy, like how can we reduce consumption, has to do with envelopes, let's say particularly considering old buildings, but mainly also looking at systems. We have a lot of lab buildings. Those lab buildings, the systems that operate those lab buildings, they are, as I mentioned before, they are energy eaters, and so therefore it's there's certainly a huge potential to look into those systems and how they operate. But then the other thing is the energy supply, and there are two big potentials. The one is deep geothermal here. Garching already having a deep geothermal system. So there are discussions whether there's the possibility to connect, etc., etc. However, in order to do this, it requires an upgrade of the infrastructure. So there is no easy solution. There is no fast solution. And the other thing is like waste heat, like for instance, and particularly from the computer center. They are talking about megawatts, and so how can we transfer this waste heat onto a usable level? So it's both, it's everything. We have to be successful on every level. Carbon neutrality is like a marathon. It's not something, it's easily achievable. It's not a one-liner. If the answer would be easy, might have been done years ago already.
All right, and right on that topic, if no one else wants to add anything, I would ask further, Thomas. We have a gas power plant here in Garching. You already talked about geothermal as an alternative. Are there any other alternatives you could see? Because a gas power plant does produce a lot of GHG emissions.
As I said, I think the two big potentials is geothermal and heat pump. So if we use the waste heat with a heat pump and lift it on a usable temperature level of something like 70 degrees plus. Right now we operate the district's heating system here at 120 degrees. So you see there's already a transformation necessary for all the systems to get down to a temperature level that makes sense for having alternative systems. But if we switch to heat pumps, then we transfer it to power and generating renewable power, which, like I said, there is a couple of megawatt potential for photovoltaics. which can be to 100% used on campus. So there is not even the need to feed anything into the grid. There might also be the potential to think about wind in nearby areas. Of course, there's the issue of the airport and so on. But there are, let's say, as soon as we switch our heating and cooling energy, which is the biggest energy consumers we have, onto power, then suddenly using renewable energy has lots of potentials.
All right, thank you very much. On the topic of renewable energies, maybe Tobias, you could talk about the photovoltaic we have here at TUM.
Well, that has always been a criticism for many years, that we do not or barely don't have any photovoltaic panels on the roofs. That was true, and that is changing on a large scale now. Since last year and until 2026, we have a total budget of 7.2 million euros from the Free State of Bavaria to actually invest in photovoltaic panels. Last year in Garching, we installed 2,500 panels already, majority on the roof of the Mathematics Informatics building, and we will continue to spend the rest of the money in time and as soon as possible on all the roofs and all the areas that are working on it. So our building management team is doing huge efforts to finally push photovoltaic in TUM, since we now finally have the funding.
All right, thank you very much. Then, Stefan, for you, maybe a question. What steps should TUM follow, and universities in general, which steps do they have to take to adapt to consequences of the climate crisis? And can they be realistically achieved?
Of course, as a planner, you would always say, first take stock of where we are and understand what are the challenges that we meet in the different campuses. We have a complex university in terms of that. We have 4 or 5 campuses that are entirely different. From the inner city in Munich to Garching, to Weinstefan, to Straubing, and then we have even one in another federal state. and so that is one thing that we understand what is going on there. And then I think it will be very important that we develop a dedicated strategy for climate change adaptation for these different campuses, with probably prime areas of concern, heat in outdoor spaces, but of course also indoors, that's quite clear, water management, rainwater management. And we should also not forget other things that are closely associated with that, because it's all moving towards the question, how can we develop green infrastructures that effectively help us to adapt these campuses to climate change, and that then we have associated things like biodiversity that we should not forget, and so to say piggyback on these topics, because in the end the space is limited, and what we want to achieve is kind of multifunctional solutions that maximize the benefits in different ways. So we need to have site-adapted solutions. If I look at the site where I come from, and which I know best in Weinstefan, that is maybe the greenest campus of all of these. And then I see 2 things. One is that we need to treat this carefully in this campus in future development, because there are many resources there. And this is not, but there are also hotspots of heat and so on where we need to intervene. So what we need to have is a kind of vulnerability assessment also for these campuses, and then really a plan that tries to lay out what needs to be done in the next 10, 20, 30 years or so, and that should be respected in the further development as an open space plan in particular, and where the buildings, so to say, are then fitted into. So not the other way around, as we used to do it often, to take the space simply for building without giving proper regard to the open spaces. That would be my hope. And particularly looking at Weinstefan, one should also not forget, I believe, that these kind of campuses, we are not in an isolated world, but they are also connected to Freising in our regard. The city depends on the cold air partly that is produced on the slopes of the Weinstephaner Berg and so on. So these interactions we also need to take into account. So we need, and the same is probably true also for other campuses. So have good communication and good joint planning with the surrounding landscape, of which the campuses depend, but also the surrounding world in ways influenced by that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that sounds really beautiful, the idea of everything that is connected. Okay, let's now tackle the topic of mobility. So, Paul, you said you were quite passionate about mobility. Maybe as a student, do you feel encouraged to take green travel options right now?
So for me, who doesn't have a driver's license, the only practical way to get to Garching faster than in an hour is by U-Bahn. But U-Bahn is also often unreliable, and if you live somewhere where you're not able to take the U-Bahn, it's a lot harder. So for Garching, I guess yes, in my particular situation. But for the inner city, I've heard complaints of many that they don't come to uni with their bike because it's just like there's big roads around, and you can't even go to Mensa without crossing a big road that doesn't have like a zebra crossing or anything. I guess because it's legally not possible, but still. So I think there's a lot to do in making our campuses more like eco-friendly in mobility sense.
Yeah. Does anyone of you want to add something to how to maybe could implement more green travel options? Yeah, sure.
Well, maybe I can add that this is a problem that is of course known and that is also tackled by again by our building management. I have to really tell the many great things they're doing at the moment, because they're also super passionate about sustainability, even though they have limited capacity. So there's a federal funding program for bikes, for bike racks, bike stands, with roofs, without roofs, in different locations, and we have installed in the last year a few hundred new bike stands outside of the buildings here in Garching, also in the main campus. So there is something to be done, but as Paul already mentioned, especially for example in Munich, but also here in Garching, we're also relating on the communities around, on the municipalities, and also on federal law regarding what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do on public roads.
Okay, so TUM also has employees that need to flight. How can we deal with that situation, maybe? Again, maybe you, Tobias.
Well, in our first climate action in our climate action plan, we have the first greenhouse gas balance, where we also calculated the Scope 3 emissions. Scope 3 is all the emissions that are not direct or indirect energy-related emissions. So we realized in 2021 there were very little CO2 emissions from traveling, which was of course because of the pandemic. No one was flying back then. In our balance in 22, we have significantly more CO2 emissions, and that will for sure increase again for the 23 balance once we will have the data. So, as the President mentioned earlier today, the development of a travel policy to regulate that, to give incentives, but to also maybe introduce some regulations is on the top priority of our climate action management for the next half year, even though at the moment we already have at least some, let's say, strong recommendations in the FAQs of our travel refund department in the intranet.
Okay, so do you know if TUM compensates for its flights by any chance?
No, TUM doesn't, but the state of Bavaria does. There's the requirement from the state of Bavaria to compensate all CO2 emissions from flights from all employees of the state, and we all are state employees. So if we fly, our flights are compensated. That is not done by TUM itself at the moment, but by the state through the ministry. However, these costs will most probably be transferred to TUM itself, and we will see how we will manage internally regarding that.
Okay, yeah. Then maybe, Benedikt, one question for you. So we talked about changes we could make in the mobility behavior. Do you have any ideas where we could work on the mobility at the campuses?
Yeah, as was already mentioned, the campuses are very different, so we would have to look at them one by one. Garching is a different situation than the center, which is in terms of mobility should be quite easy if we improve the bicycle safety around it and get away from one of the top universities of the world being surrounded by internally combustion engine cars, which is an outdated technology. So I think we have to really lobby for that with the city of Munich and really make clear that this is not acceptable. In terms of more external things, I think always as an urban planner, you try to think about push and pull factors. So you want to give incentives, but you also want to make people think twice because there are certain costs associated with their choice of mobility patterns. So I know that, for example, parking costs at Garching are a hotly debated issue, but I suspect that it's not possible without such measures. At the same time, you have to, if you push people in a certain direction, you could also give them incentive to come and to make a better connection by public transport easy. I could also imagine cooperating more with bicycle providers. I came here by foldable bike in the U-Bahn, so that's a combination of mode or electric bikes, etc., etc. So we have to look in all directions.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I have an interesting question regarding the topic from our community. So you said we need to change something on campus, and we got the question, why are there still cars on the campus Garching? Why is the street still going through it? The campus? Maybe any one of you has an insight on that, or why there are problems maybe getting those wishes through?
I'm not the city of Garching, but I can say some things. Like I have been active in trying to change something about that. There are quite a few problems that you run into. First of all, which is really obvious, there's a bus line going through the campus, and that makes sense. Like it would be kind of weird to have the bus line going any other way. And you also have the firefighters, which need to reach every part of the campus. And there's also just vehicles going from TUM building to TUM building or to other buildings, technical staff, which also need to use that road. But you could think about closing it for at least private cars, because private cars really don't need to go through the campus. They may need to go to the northern or southern part, but there are two access roads anyway. And you could also think about reducing the maximum speed at the campus, which is 50 at the moment, and that's not really sensible in an environment where people walk around all the time.
What do the others think on that topic?
There's an Austrian planner called Herbert Knoflacher, and since like 50 years he's talking about this issue, and he said, do a very simple thing, make going by car as attractive as going by public transport. So if you make a carpooling garage somewhere where you have the same walking distance to the facilities as from the U-Bahn or a little bit more, and not let people park right in front of the institute, maybe they will think twice. So I think it's not about banning cars entirely, but about improving the quality of the open space in the campus by maybe not having them everywhere, and then just giving incentives to think twice of taking the car, because there are some people who simply live somewhere where you cannot go by public transport to the campus, and that's something that's hard to influence. So you should not push them away from the chance of getting the education here. There's also cleaning staff, there's employees of the Mensa, etc., etc. So maybe they don't have any other chance of coming here. So it's a complex issue, but I agree that something should be changed, and it's a great potential. Parking spaces is also in the inner city the biggest potential we have for changing our cities.
Yeah, you talked about the waste stuff. That's very interesting because it's a great way to go to our next topic, which is waste. Maybe, Tobias, you can tell us maybe where are flaws in our waste management system. Maybe you have an insight on that.
Well, the biggest problem with our waste management system at the moment is that we have a staff unit, disposal and environment. I have to read that from my notes. And they're doing an amazing job, but they are 4 persons for all campuses. And there you can directly derive the problem that we have. Completely understaffed, and these 4 people are responsible for all the waste on all campuses, including some special wastes that need specific treatment, like hazardous chemicals, etc. So all this goes through one unit with 4 people. And even though they have managed to compile a huge document which is called Entsorgungsleitfaden, a very nice German word actually, where it specifically defines the flows of waste for different waste categories. It defines the colors that the bins should have in the buildings. But when we don't have the money to buy new bins, we cannot work with the colors, and that's actually the sad reality at some point.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, since waste management is something everyone of us needs to do by themselves, we all need to separate our trash. Let's maybe get into what each and every employee or student could do to improve waste, to improve maybe energy reduction, of course, stuff like switching off the lights. But do you have any ideas what every student or every employee at TUM could do to help with this cause?
Food. Food is a major lever, but he knows much more levers.
Yeah, but interestingly enough, when I go to the Mensa, like in the downtown campus, the vegan line became the longest. So that's already happening. So maybe it's not always necessary to force things. In terms of energy, of course, I mean, I don't want to start with the most obvious, turning off the lights, turning off the radiators. But I think everybody should be aware. We do some research which we find very interesting about this question of comfort and health. And there's some clear indication that there is no correlation between comfort and health. It's actually the opposite, that getting the body every once in a while out of the comfort zone is actually more healthy. And I think we all need to be aware. I found once in an elevator, someone wrote onto the elevator wall, your comfort zone is going to kill you. And I think this is something we should keep in mind. And maybe why do we heat all buildings for a few people that come on a weekend to TUM? And so if everybody, when we leave, particularly overnight, for the weekend, is turning off the radiators, it has an impact. I mean, Deutsche Bank would say it's peanuts, but it's a lot of peanuts, and so therefore it makes an impact, it makes a difference.
All right, thank you very much. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Perhaps a little bit of monitoring would help also to increase awareness. So in my chair, we have maybe 7-8 rooms or so that we have at our disposal. Nobody knows how much energy we use, how that changes over the course of the year, between years, etc. So why should we care about it?
That is a very good point. Yes, please.
It doesn't really concern waste or energy, but the individual impact of many people working at TUM can also be just choosing different projects or examples just for their teaching or for their practical courses to work on and to promote. Like in informatics, it doesn't really matter what you calculate the algorithm for. You can also just, if you model a system, it can also be a climate relevant system, but it never is. So that's something that everyone designing courses and also taking part in courses can help doing and just raising awareness for the issue.
Thank you very much. I definitely agree to that. Then let's get into the final round, I would say. I'll ask a question, and I'd like each and every one of you to maybe answer in 1 or 2 sentences, just a small answer. So, what do you think is the most essential aspect of the transformation of our campuses? Maybe we can start with you, Tobias.
Sure, I have 2 essential aspects actually. The first one is to reduce the energy consumption in total and make the remaining energy green. And the second one is to make our campuses more livable spaces, both for people, but also for nature.
And there's nothing to add from my side. You already said it. I mean, I'm together with Thomas Auer. We are both also members of the Klimarat in Munich. So it's also an advisory body that tries to support the city of Munich in its way, in its transformation under climate change. And so we are, so to say, also a team there. One is looking at the side of sustainability and in terms of energy. The other one is looking at the open spaces. And for me, it's always really a very important concern that we don't forget the climate change adaptation measures. And I believe that we should be very strong there in our targets. We need to make this very measurable in targets. Look at the nice posters from my colleague, Professor Regine Keller, with her chair for architecture and landscape architecture and open spaces, where they try to calculate how many trees are there, how many trees should we have as a target, and so to make this clear as a hard target. And then, of course, we need to move on to implementing projects like the things that she and her students, of course, propose for Garching. So having strong strategic goals and then going down to earth and see where do we have the opportunities to make changes step by step, because it is a complicated process and we cannot change everything overnight.
Thank you, Stefan. Benedikt?
Yeah, realize that excellence, being top in the world, which I like as an Anspruch, as a goal, also relates to the campus. And we should not stop before going one step even beyond the state of the art, at least in our plans and our thinking, and make the campus a laboratory for that, all of our campuses, because that's a unique chance. And if we want to get even better, I think we have to address this.
Right. Thank you very much. Paul?
So I'm not going to repeat the things that I also find very important. The others already said. I'm going to add something from a student perspective. I think we have a big potential in getting students involved and making them more active and engaging them in sustainability issues. There are so many people who volunteer all the time, and they need all the help they can get. They need to be incentivized to keep going and become active as students. As I think Eckhard von Hirschhausen once said, it's hard to save the world as a volunteer while others are destroying it as their full-time job. So they need all the help they can get.
Yeah, I would say, of course, technology plays a role, but we should not believe in technology only. And I say this as an engineer, with having a chair on building technology. I think what's at least as important, if not more important, is a cultural shift. I think we need a culture towards sustainability. We need to rethink our expectations every day. We can dream of a Hyperloop, but the Hyperloop, it will take long time until we get a Hyperloop. We need to think about every car ride today. And we have at our chair in summer 35 degrees. When we measured inside, and we cope with it. We have a ceiling fan, we organize ice cream. I think it's a matter of expectations, and we have to rethink all of our individual expectations.
Then, thank you very much, and thank you for this amazing discussion. Thank you for being here, and let's have a big round of applause for all our panelists, starting with Paul Bachmann.
Yes. Also, a really big thank you for Tobias Michel. Thank you so much for being here.
And of course, Professor Dr. Benedikt Buxen.
Thank you as well, Professor Dr. Stefan Pauleit, for being here. Thank you so much.
And of course, last but not least, thank you very much for being here, Professor Thomas Auer.
And thank you. You did a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Okay, please everyone enjoy the fair here on campus and stay sustainable.